I pulled my lieutenant out of a burning vehicle and he reported me for damaging equipment. Iraq 2009, I was a specialist with the 101st Airborne, 6 months into my deployment. Our convoy was heading back to base after a routine patrol when the IED hit. The explosion flipped Lieutenant Kevin Patterson's Humvee onto its side. I was in the vehicle behind his. Saw the whole thing happen in slow motion. Fire started spreading from the engine almost immediately. My driver, Private First Class Austin Reed, slammed on the brakes. I jumped out before we even stopped moving. The rest of our convoy was establishing a perimeter, scanning for secondary attacks. Standard procedure. But I could see Patterson trapped inside. His door was jammed shut from the impact, pinned against the ground. The gunner, Corporal Brandon Hayes, was already out and trying to help, but the metal was too hot to touch. Flames were crawling up the undercarriage. If that fire reached the fuel tank, everyone near that vehicle was dead. I grabbed a crowbar from our truck and ran over. Hayes and I jammed it into the doorframe and pulled with everything we had. The door wouldn't budge. The fire was getting worse. "We need to get him out now!" Hayes yelled. I looked at the windshield, already cracked from the blast. I smashed it with the crowbar, cleared out the broken glass with my gloves, and crawled halfway inside. Patterson was conscious but dazed. His leg was trapped under the collapsed dashboard. I could smell fuel mixing with smoke. "Sir, I need to move this dashboard. It's gonna hurt." He nodded, too stunned to speak. I braced my boots against the doorframe and pushed the dashboard up with my back. Felt something in my shoulder pop, but I held it. Hayes reached in and dragged Patterson out through the windshield opening. We carried him about 50 feet away. 10 seconds later, the fuel tank caught. The whole vehicle went up in a fireball. Patterson had a broken leg and some burns on his hands. Hayes and I got treated for minor smoke inhalation. My shoulder was messed up, but nothing permanent. I figured that was the end of it, wrote up my statement for the after-action report. Explained how we extracted Patterson from the vehicle. 3 days later, my platoon sergeant called me into his office. "Specialist, you're being written up for destruction of government property." I stared at him. "What?" He showed me the paperwork. Lieutenant Patterson had filed a report stating that I unnecessarily damaged the windshield of his vehicle and that proper extraction procedures weren't followed. "Sergeant, that vehicle was on fire. The door wouldn't open." "I understand that, but Lieutenant Patterson claims the fire wasn't serious yet and you acted prematurely. He says the windshield could have been saved if you'd waited for fire suppressant." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "That Humvee exploded 60 seconds after we got him out." My sergeant sighed. "I know, but he's an officer and you're enlisted. He's filing the report." The investigation took 2 weeks. They interviewed everyone in the convoy. Hayes backed me up completely. Even the medics testified that Patterson's injuries would have been way worse if we'd waited. Finally, my company commander, Captain Sarah Ellis, called me in. "Specialist, I've reviewed everything. Lieutenant Patterson's report is being dismissed. In fact, I'm recommending you for an Army Achievement Medal for quick thinking under fire." I felt the tension drain out of my shoulders. She continued. "However, Lieutenant Patterson is being reassigned to a staff position. He won't be leading troops in the field anymore." Turns out Patterson had frozen during the attack. Didn't radio for help, didn't try to escape, just sat there in shock. He filed the report against me because he was embarrassed that an enlisted soldier had to save him. Captain Ellis made it clear that officers who can't handle combat stress don't get to punish the people who save their lives. I got my medal 3 weeks later. Patterson spent the rest of his deployment pushing papers at headquarters. Never did get an apology, though.